In 1905, there was a gun battle in the town of Thorn Hill, Tennessee, that ended a feud with the death of all involved. This story started with three men, R.B. Bundren, John H. Crozier, and Will Holland. Mr. Bundren was a wealthy promoter of good schools, good roads, and the development of Grainger County, Tennessee. He was a good friend of Robert Love Taylor, former governor of Tennessee, with Taylor spending time as a guest at Bundren's home. John H. Crozier was a former Confederate soldier who'd followed his father into the practice of law in Knoxville. He left the family practice and moved to Morristown to set up his own law firm. But Mr. Crozier's main passion was man flight, not the law. You see, he held many patents for the forceful navigation of the air, and John Crozier actually flew a glider off the side of Clinch Mountain to test his aircraft. Many folks said that had he lived, he would have beaten the Wright brothers in inventing the airplane. John H. Crozier had been hired by a widow to whom R.B. Bundren owed a sum of money. There was a trial, and the court ruled in favor of the widow and awarded her a judgment against Mr. Bundren. Attorney Crozier executed on that judgment and held a sale of some lumber owned by Bundren to local businessman Will Holland. After the sale, the two were sorting the lumber when R.B. Bundren arrived with his gun drawn. Bundren ordered Crozier and Holland to stop messing with his wood. He and Holland began to argue while Crozier sat quietly watching the two men. Bundren then turned his attention to Crozier, firing 3 shots at him, causing the lawyer to quickly duck behind a pile of lumber. Bundren turned the gun on Holland, firing 2 shots before leaving. Crozier then went to the Convery post office, where he encountered Bundren, who had armed himself with a Winchester rifle. Bundren fired his Winchester, shooting John H. Crozier and killing him. R.B. Bundren was arrested and tried for Crozier's murder. He was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. This, though, is far from the end of the story. You see, Mr. Bundren had a son, Will Bundren, and it's said that the elder Bundren instructed his son to get rid of Will Holland for him. The Bundren-Holland feud was on and would last for 4 years. On Monday, June 12, 1905, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Will Holland and his brother John were at their blacksmith shop in Thorn Hill. A few miles away, Will Bundren and a hired hand of his, Clint Walker, were on their horses, riding toward the blacksmith shop, hollering and firing their guns into the air. Reports were that the two had been drinking that morning. Well, all this commotion coming into town caused folks to gather at the Holland blacksmith shop to see what was going to happen. When Bundren and Walker got up to the shop, they fired into it, then walked in, guns drawn. There they found the Holland brothers, armed and ready for action. A gun battle began. Then Bundren and Walker ran out of the shop, crossed a creek, and began firing again from that position. John and Will Holland followed, shooting back with their Winchester rifles. The battle ended with both Holland men shot to death and with Clint Walker shot up and near dead. Will Bundren, wounded himself, managed to get on his horse and ride to a nearby house where he died an hour later. And what of R.B. Bundren, the man who started the feud in the first place? Well, he never fully served that life sentence for the murder of John Crozier. The governor of Tennessee pardoned Bundren after he'd served 10 years. He returned to Grainger County and married a widow, Mrs. Kate Quillen. But that marriage didn't last long. In November 1918, the two had an argument about the best time to butcher hogs. R.B. was ready to do some hog killing right then and there, but Kate said it wasn't cold enough and she wanted to wait. R.B. won that argument, but when Kate gave some of the meat to neighbors, Bundren was outraged and slapped her. Having none of her husband's abuse, Kate Quillen Bundren left and went to Knoxville and hired a divorce attorney who filed an attachment on R.B. Bundren's property as security for his client. On November 23rd, Kate went to the house to get her personal belongings and found R.B. there, waiting on her. After an argument, Bundren shot her dead with his Winchester rifle. Hearing the shots, Kate's son, Monroe Quillen, ran into the house with a gun and shot Bundren dead in an exchange of gunfire. Monroe was arrested, but the justice of the peace dismissed the charges, and he was released from custody. If you liked our story of Appalachia today, please give us a like and a follow if you don't mind. Thanks for watching.